KPV Peptide Benefits, here we go. So what if the root cause of every major aging disease starts in your gut? What if I told you there's this little tiny tripeptide, just 3 amino acids, derive some of the most ancient anti-inflammatory signals in the human body that crosses directly into the gut epithelial cells, shuts off the master switch of inflammation, and has demonstrated effects on IBD, gut barrier integrity, and the gut microbiome, all with minimal or no side effects, because it shares a sequence of your own proteins. You probably never heard of it. I can almost promise you your doctors aren't talking about it, but this is called KPV. So I'm Regan Archibald. I'm the founder of Ageless Future. We build peptide protocols to help you look, feel, and perform your best at any age. And so today what we're going to do is a deep dive on KPV, what it is, and we'll have a conversation around how it can be included in every serious longevity protocol. So first of all, chronic inflammation. Why does it matter? Well, it's the silent driver of every major aging disease. Here's the uncomfortable truth about modern health. Most people are walking around with this low-grade systemic inflammation. They can't feel until it becomes something they can. Remember, symptoms are the last thing to show up in your body. Medicine, we practice what's called Medicine 4.0, which is where we want to predict the future outcomes of your health by upgrading your operating system, improving the signals so that you have a new peak performance, even if you're in your 60s, 70s, or 80s. But symptoms, which is where reactive medicine comes in, most of the medicine that is practiced today is either Medicine 2.0 or 3.0. 3.0 is, hey, I want you to eat better. I want you to exercise more, prevent disease. That's helpful. But Medicine 2.0 is like, and here's a drug to mask the symptom of your high cholesterol. Here's a statin, for example. But really, when you think about KPV and you think about every disease in the body, it starts in the gut. And this was written about in some of the ancient Chinese medical texts that I read over 25 years ago. And so if you think about inflammation, if it does start in the gut, well, what does it impact? Well, the first thing is cardiovascular disease. When you have inflammation systemically, now your gut barrier integrity is compromised, and so you can have bacteria that transmigrates out of your gut into the rest of the body. You can also have these undigested proteins that trigger this inflammatory response. And then the other issue is you can have bacterial species in your teeth. You can have more cavities, more root canals, and in fact, that can lead to greater cardiovascular disease. It can also trigger type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's, you turn on that ApoE4 gene, cancer, sarcopenia. These are not separate diseases with separate causes. They're just expressions of the same underlying process, which is chronic inflammation. It's like burning at this low heat for decades. It's a silent killer. It's like death by 1,000 cuts. You don't realize until it's too late. You're wondering, like, why am I tired? Why do I not feel like exercising? Why do I have this low-grade headache? Why do I feel like my stomach aches all the time? And this is directly impacting your inflammatory signals. So where do they originate? Well, 70 to 80% of your immune system lives in your gut. And when the gut barrier is compromised, these tight gap junctions between your epithelial cells, it's just 2 cell layers thick. When they start to break down, now you get these bacterial endotoxins, you get food particles, you get inflammatory triggers that leak into systemic circulation. This is what the science community now calls leaky gut, and it's a primary driver of whole body inflammation. So KPV was designed by nature to address exactly this thing. Now KPV, it stands for lysine, proline, and valine. It's a tripeptide. 3 amino acids is derived from the alpha MSH, alpha melanocyte stimulating hormone pathway, and alpha MSH is one of the body's endogenous anti-inflammatory signals. It's not talked about very much, but KPV is this active C-terminal sequence, the part that does the heavy lifting. Its primary mechanism is inhibition of the NF-kappa beta. This is a nuclear factor, kappa beta, which is the master transcription factor for the inflammatory response. So when NF-kappa beta is active, your body produces this cascade of pro-inflammatory cytokines. Tumor necrosis factor alpha, IL-6, IL-1. KPV blocks that switch. And it does it in a very safe manner. There's actually been no lethal dose ever established around this. And it also does something else. It crosses that gut epithelial cell into the membranes directly, through a specific transporter called PepT1, giving it this unique oral bioavailability. So a lot of people are saying oral peptides don't work. You got to do injections, and you can inject KPV, no problem. You can also take this oral because it directly binds to the sites where the gut inflammation is. In one study, this was 2008, published in the Journal of Inflammatory Bowel Diseases by Oxford University Press, KPV demonstrated strong anti-inflammatory properties in 2 studies, and these are different mouse models. One is an IBD, and then the DSS-induced colitis with CD45RBHI, transfer colitis. So this was like C. diff. And these were 2 of the most rigorous preclinical models for inflammatory bowel disease. KPV was shown to be more stable than other MC1R agonists and produce fewer side effects, likely because its sequence is shared with human endogenous proteins. So your body recognizes it. It's not a threat. And it's such a small amino acid chain that you're going to increase your safety profile. So then in 2022, a study published in Science Direct examined PMSP KPV hydrogen gel in a colitis model. The results showed complete restoration of gut mucosal barrier function, modulation of the gut flora composition. The gut flora is like all of the phylums, the bacteria, the fungi. It's everything. But they found that it helped that flora composition and made a marked increase in the population of beneficial microorganisms. The gut barrier was rebuilt, so no more leaky gut, and the microbiome improved. This inflammatory environment was completely calmed down. Here's the bad news. KPV, believe it or not, was previously put on FDA's Category 2 list of bulk substances, and now it's not been nominated for being withdrawn in April 26 and moving it into a different regulatory space similar to MOTS-C and BPC, thymosin beta-4, TB500, melanotan-2, which also works on this MSH alpha pathway. But this means that it will be more readily available through 503A compounding pharmacies through a valid prescription and medical oversight. And just like any other peptide, KPV, if you can buy it online, if it says research use only, not for human consumption, you got to be careful with it because it may not be the right thing. So from a scientific perspective, and when it comes to longevity, if you can turn off that chronic inflammation, you're going to have enormous benefits in your life. And so KPV, you want to think of it as one of your secret weapons. It's a precision tool to decrease that low-grade chronic inflammation that accumulates as we age, and it directly reverses the aging process. It can help prevent cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer's, cancer, sarcopenia, metabolic syndrome, just because of its reduction in this inflammation process. And your gut is the epicenter. So if you have never looked at your gut health, one of the things that we do at Ageless Future is we have you poop in a box. Everybody's favorite test, right? But when we send in your gut test, or actually you're going to send in your stool test, now the lab can see if there's infections, how well you break down foods, what's your protein breakdown look like, how's your enzymatic proteins, how's your pancreatic enzymes, and we'll be able to see if you break down fats, carbohydrates, and then we can see the health of the overall biome. And so KPV has been a key component of treatment of patients who have either leaky gut or poor enzymatic production, or they have dysregulation in their biome. So for those of you who are ready to go deeper and you want to try KPV as one of the most targeted, mechanistically elegant tools you have to address your gut biome, all you need to do is go to agelessfuture.com, set up a free intro session. My team will take great care of you. They'll get your blood labs ran, they'll get a gut test ordered for you, and then once we get the data, we'll put the right peptide protocol together for you that's customized, personalized. Everybody gets their own unique blend. And so if you love KPV and you want to know what it does, I have a video that I made called What Does KPV Peptide Do? So you have a firm understanding. Just click on the link below. I'll see you there.